Welcome back to the European LCS, where Crepo is joining me together with the Unicorns of Love's Visit Chachi, not only ranked the best top laner in our stats breakdown, but also the player of the series. Tell me in your own words, how did you guys manage to 2-0 H2K?
I think the past weeks we have had really good practice, and finally, after beating a lot of top teams in the practice and such, and we felt like everything is getting together, we managed to show it on the stage as well and 2-0 H2K. Even though the second game was a bit closer than I would have loved it to.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you're that good, you gotta play on hard mode, right? You gotta draft 3 losing lanes.
I do know that Odawamne is now listening to this, so basically we could just ask you straight up, how come you dominated him so hard in that first game? Was it just a matchup?
Yeah, kind of. We traded a good matchup for good matchup in game 1 and game 2.
Yeah.
So I had the upper hand in the first one and could use it, and he was doing the same in the second game. So I think we went toe-to-toe with each other. So that's kind of how the statistics.
That's the sports
No
like.
flame,
You should
no
just be like, I wrecked this guy. He dove me twice. We still won.
That's actually true. They tried to dive, but yeah.
Yeah, we're going to focus our attention to this match, though. G2 is taking on Misfits, and as where a 2-0 by the Unicorns of Love over H2K was an upset in a lot of analysts' minds. What is an upset in Misfits versus G2, Crepo?
The easy answer is a 2-0 by Misfits. Obviously, I think even a 2-1 by Misfits would be an upset. I think G2 is just looking a lot stronger because H2K convincingly played versus Misfits last week, and G2, they haven't really faltered much.
Oh, undefeated team.
Yeah.
I think with Misfits, the problem is sometimes when they play against the stronger teams, they tend to choke a bit, or I don't know how to express it, because last time I watched their matches against H2K the last week, I felt like it wasn't the Misfits that played against us, but they played way more passive and they made uncharacteristic.
Yeah, that word. I don't use it anymore on air.
Yeah, so I felt like they are just not themselves all the time when they play against these top teams.
All right, and G2 definitely a top team, as said, undefeated yet here in the spring split, and of course in top lane week. And with you on the desk, we want to turn our attention to the top lane matchup. Expect versus Alphari. What can you tell us about your expectations about this? Always happens. This matchup.
I think Alphari is probably one of the best laners right now in the EULCS. Whenever we scrim them, I learn a lot from him about top lane matchups. However, his mid-game play and playing together with the teammates is a bit lacking, because sometimes he rotates when he shouldn't and such. While Expect is more of the team player, and he sometimes even tries to give up a bit of the lane and help his team.
So Alphari is known as a great carry player. And most of the time, top laners struggle. Everybody can play great tanks, but some of them can't play carry. But it seems to me like Alphari is actually much better at playing carry than he is on tanks.
I certainly believe that Alphari is like the carry player. He loves to pick up the Jace, the cannon and such that he can carry with. But I think right now the top carry is Rumble, and Expect is one of the best Rumble players in EU as well. So this pick will be highly contested and should be either pick or ban, I think.
Right, and even to take a closer look at that top lane over on EULCS 2, the Fisho will be hosting our special top lane focused stream with Fnatic Soaz and H2K's Odawamne. So for those of you on EULCS 1, be sure to tune in and check it out as well. What do you want to say?
It's okay, right? The Fisho has decent analysis. These guys are okay, but it's no Mythy Sven bot lane stream. But I hope that they can hopefully get close.
I think you are... It's not even happened yet, and you're being very PJ Salt here, because I think we got a pretty good lineup going on over here as well. So
yeah. Definitely watch this stream, even though we'll probably appear on both.
All right. Well, the teams are ready, and that's who it's about. So let's get right into the action.
Right now.
Thank you very much, Sharks. Hello, everybody. I'm Quickshot, joined by Stress to help bring you the action here between G2 and Misfits. And Stress, before we talk about the analysis, let's remind everybody of the rosters. Starting on the blue side of the Rift and having side selection on games 1 and 3 if needed, it is G2 Esports. Expect in the top lane, Trick in the jungle, Perks in the mid lane, Sven and Mythy, your duo down bottom, and their coach, Youngbuck.
Facing G2 on the red side of the Rift, it is Misfits. In the top lane is Alphari. In the jungle, Kakao. Mid lane is Power of Evil, AD carry Hans Summer, support Igna, and their coach is Hussein.
Number 2 versus number 1.
For a second time today.
This time, though, it's much more clear, right? Because H2K and UOL they were even in the standings. That was actually like to determine first seeds.
But I think the interesting thing, the discussion wasn't quite so clean-cut on the last series, and we just had an upset. So nobody really knows. I mean, it's still been over a year since G2 lost a series. Will Misfits be able to do it? They're going to have to bring their A game, I feel, to upset that record.
And it'll have to be a stronger performance than last week against H2K. They put up a fight, game 1, blow for blow, slugs back and forth. But then H2K just ran over Misfits last week. And I was a little disappointed because I really felt like that series was going to go to 3, go the distance.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to see the Misfits of previous week show up today against G2 Esports.
Okay, so as we hit picks and bans, we're on patch 7.5. We haven't seen a massive amount of changes. A lot of the same support priority has still been put into effect.
But one of the people who's been very outspoken has been Sven around some of the ADC changes. Please give us Lucian or Callista. That's what I'm hoping for. Let's take a look at the power picks banned away thus far, Malzahar Camille.
But then you've also got to look at the man who stands aside on the opposite side of the rift, right? Hans Sama. He also has this very trading-heavy style. He's the one that's played has played the Draven at times. So I want to see what these two AD carries actually bring us here. But again, no real change in the ban priority. We're seeing a lot of Lulu ban. Some of that is to do with the rise of Kog'Maw compositions that is happening over in other regions. We've seen it a couple of times in LCK, mostly to losing affairs, but that was up against KT Rolster, so it's not always the comp that does that for you.
And of course, with the Lulu, she got a small buff a couple patches ago. Supports around her starting to get nerfed and exhaust starting to change. You know, like the meta shifts, so she's risen in popularity, and Shen has not changed in popularity. Still one of the top picks here in Europe.
A lot of focus on top lane right now. G2 taking away a carry potential for Misfits. I wonder where we're actually going up in the top lane now. With Camille banned, Shen banned, Nautilus has to be the one that you look at it. And G2 take that. Yes, it can be a flex, but with all of this talk about dueling in the bottom lane, I have to expect this is going up in that top lane.
Yeah, and of course it is top lane week. Expect actually had a quote in one of the articles that I think Verius put together, speaking to a lot of the top laners, where Expect said, as a team, G2 have got a lot of carries everywhere else on the map, so he doesn't necessarily need to play a carry. And we've seen that a fair amount from him. If you look down Expect's champion pool, and Ignar, he just insta-locks that Thresh. We've been wanting to see it. He's been one of the best Threshers all split because he's been one of the only ones playing it.
This is a statement. You don't even see the enemy AD carry and Thresh is locked in. This could easily be an Ezreal pickup for G2 to completely avoid what is a catch-focused, very hookshot-reliant champion on Ignar. Now in Challenger, we saw Thresh week after week after week for Ignar. And it did very well when he could catch his opponents, but he's up against Sven and Mithy. These are not two people that characteristically die in lane that often.
No, not characteristically. Although those characteristics have been challenged.
They have.
In recent weeks. I remember Ignar doing flash flay engages at level 2 just a month ago on the EULCS stage. So let's see what he can do today. He's got Cacao in the jungle for backup. Trick will be running the Rengar, and Perks is locked in the Syndra.
And I like this from G2 because Misfits have already shown a support. G2 basically get themselves two of the safest solo laners right now. You pick up the Syndra for mid lane, the Nautilus for the top lane, and you put a lot of pressure now on the second half of this draft on Misfits. Either they take one decent lane matchup and have the other banned away here, or Misfits roll the dice and try and just leave both available.
Let's see what they do. Misfits decide to prioritize the Renekton. Alfari, we heard Chachi talking about how well he plays those carry champions. And Alfari's definitely somebody who likes to push the advantage when he has it. This will be his third Renekton of the split. And let's see how well he performs. Visit Chachi game 1. You were well earlier today, had a phenomenal performance.
Now, if Misfits can get their focus up into that top lane, it's not exactly rocket science to figure out what Renekton Graves are going to do against the Nautilus. If Nautilus ends up falling, that's a fairly quick tower push potential from Misfits at least, but with the Zyra banned out, we're turning our focus now back down to the bottom lane.
And it kind of makes you think that Misfits are also expecting Nautilus top.
Yeah.
Ban phase 2, support targeted. It's 5 seconds left before G2 can decide to remove something else. What are the power picks are up? LeBlanc still a champion that both Perks and Power of Evil have played a lot of, despite the nerfs. We've seen it a fair amount here in Europe.
Power of Evil's likely going Orianna on this rotation. Can pick it up as the first pick in Phase 2, as it is a safe mid laner, but this LeBlanc, we just saw Exile playing it in Game 1 of the series between Unicorns versus HUK. It is still a viable champion by the looks of things. Caps maybe not with the same success for Fnatic in the series yesterday, but nevertheless, we've seen a lot less shift around in 7.5 than was perhaps expected.
And taking a look at the bans there, Tom Kinch as well as the Callista. G2 actually banning it out. So, you know, Stress, you mentioned the Draven from Hans Sama. Draven's most played champion is Jhin with 10 games out of the team's split so far. Where will he look? Because we're looking for a mid lane and ADC. It's going to be one of those being locked in.
The problem is, I think you go mid lane here with Orianna, and it allows you to pick a good bot lane matchup here. You know G2 will likely pick something like an Ezreal that can sit away from this Thresh, have a good escape, and then Mithy will likely pick up something that is just easy to support around it. We did see Alistair come out yesterday, but that was into a Malzahar. So I wonder whether G2 will, in fact, go for that safe bot lane. And then Misfits can potentially look for a Draven if they want to fight this lane, something that that Hans Sama has in his back pocket. But if it's all about farming and playing for later stages, they'll probably end up going Jhin.
All right, Caitlyn over Ezreal. And of course, Mithy going to lock in his support in a moment or two. If you were to make a prediction now that you know Caitlyn and Braum, which one do you think Hans Sama's
You can play Ashe into Caitlyn. You can end up doing well in that lane, but at the same time, it's not exactly the most convincing of lanes. Maybe they want to go for something that can actually wave clear against this Caitlyn. Caitlyn pushes quite heavily, but Braum alongside provides disengage more than anything in this setup.
Oh yes, of course, Ezreal available.
Yeah.
Ezreal or Ashe, gonna be your Ashe. So nicely done, Stress, and gives you some initiation power as well.
It does. Misfits now have ball delivery with this Renekton and the Orianna. You've got the Ashe arrow to start fights. But G2, if they can avoid the fights, they've got Braum to disengage, Caitlyn to keep people at range and wave clear. And then you've got this tanky Nautilus that's going to end up providing a lot of frontline alongside Braum as this game goes later.
The only concern if this game does go later, Nautilus and Braum on the front line. Misfits, no traditional tank. Yes, Cacau's going to get beefier. Alfari can get beefy somewhat, but it's not quite as simple as an unbreakable shield and Nautilus pressing W, right?
Yeah, exactly. I really want to hear at the end of this game the analyst's thought on this first pick Thresh. Everybody's been talking about lane trading in bot lane because of the changes to Exhaust and Ignite coming back. First picking it is very ambitious out of Misfits. Now want to see whether Ignar and Hans Sama can have their effect in the bot lane.
Well, we're going to find out. Last week, Xpecial ran it in the North American LCS. We've seen it in China. You see it all over the place. Ignar himself has played it this split. This will be his third game. 1 win, 1 loss, and let's find out how well they perform, Stress, because this is a clash at the top of Group A as we get into Game 1 between G2 Esports and Misfits.
But if he doesn't trade, he loses. I can ult gank too. Yeah, same bot lane is, if don't fight, we win. Focus on farm and trading less, make sure jungle doesn't have to come bot.
It's on some.
Okay, I want a lot of communication this game about mid game, okay?
Put your hands together for G2 Esports taking on Misfits. The top of the table in Group A. It has been 393 days since G2 lost a series in the European LCS. We completely forget international performances for that stat to work. Let's find out if Misfits will treat G2 like a European super team or an international super flop. Those are the two variations, and let's see if Misfits can step up to Europe's best team.
And at this early phase of the game, Misfits looking for that control around the Raptors, getting the wards down. You can see how Ignar and Hans Sama move now into Tribush. I'm going to keep my eyes on Ignar. Hasn't skilled anything yet, obviously. Mostly Threshes will start with Flay. You get that empowered auto attack, which gives you good trades on the early part of the laning phase.
And you can see, there we go, Flare is started. No Ignite for Ignar.
Yes. I feel like that's partly because when you're playing up against like Caitlyn Braum, you're not expecting to get the kill, and the exhaust at the same time will reduce the burst damage that Perkz is going to bring from the Syndra. So it's kind of like a double hitter of why it's exhaust and not ignite.
Yeah, going to work in their favor, of course. And we're going to have to see how well this laning phase plays out. Taking a look through the early jungle starts. Trick's going to get some support here from Mithy and Sven, so...
That's a lot of support. That's a smiteless red start for this Rengar. It's going to allow him to go onto his second camp, smite it, get a lot of health back, and be in a much better situation than we've seen out of other Rengars like Maxlaw, as he did yesterday. Actually didn't even smite that second one.
So what does that smite mean then for... Let's think a few minutes ahead. What are some of the options that Trick can look to set up? Is this an early gank?
No, he's just jumping out onto the Krugs, utilizing that passive from Rengar for now. And as we get shown what is the first dragon of the game, it's going to be a bit of an explosive start on this one. Infernal Dragon, normally the quickest here in Europe to get taken down, and everywhere else around the globe. High priority for that increased damage.
Yeah, we'll see how well the respective lanes set themselves up. Hans and Ignar were pushing down bottom. Perkz and Power People are going to be trading with that Dark Sphere and Orianna passive. But I actually want to bring my attention to the bottom lane and talk a little bit about both of these duos. You know, a lot of hype around all four of the players on your screen, and I want to start with the support players. If you look at the likes of Mithy and Ignar, these are two guys that have really stepped up. Ignar showing up in his first LCS split. He's roaming, he's setting up ganks, he's got confident play. And if we look at some of his statistics as well, kills plus assists at 15 minutes, actually sitting the highest for his role. Got 2 of those on average per game. And he spends some of the lowest amount of time with his ADC Hans Summer. So he roams, he impacts the map, he plays around very effectively.
And that's one of the difficult situations for Misfits, is when they're playing up against opponents that force them to stay in lane. That's when Misfits don't quite have that playmaker available for them. Their vision control drops a little bit lower. And Ignar, if you can't have that impact, it's been him and Kakao that have been kind of going around together as a unit and working very well together for Misfits. But right now, the focus is a lot on this jungle pathing in the early game so far. You can see the Trick puts down an early control ward, just getting as much vision control as he can.
Yeah, he really can. Not going to make a play just yet. There's some of those stats I was talking about just a second ago. And of course, kill participation at 15 minutes. That's that third stat. Taking a look at just how impactful Ignar is, again, with those roams. He is a playmaker. He's a forward-facing member of the team, and he sets guys up like Power People, like Hans Summer.
Yeah, it's very interesting though when you look at the people next to them with the 80 carries. Sven, as always, CSD always in the positive. Very difficult to force Sven and Mithy away from farming. However, less active in this early game. It's what we've come to expect out of G2. A lot more kills plus assists in the early game for Hans Summer. Misfits have been more about getting that ball rolling in the early game and carrying that through to snowball their leads, but we've seen them stumble against the likes of H2K, and now G2 is the true test of Misfits once again. It didn't work out for them the first time these two teams met.
Well, true test of any European team. 9-0 this split, Stress. Back-to-back titles in 2016. G2 are currently the undisputed kings of Europe. And looking at the minimap, it's Misfits with some roaming potential. Hans Summer and Ignar were moving into the jungle. They've got some vision down, but nothing more than that.
Not only back-to-back titles, but you look at Trick and Kakao, and those two, I think, are the two players that are fighting for that MVP status. Trick has had back-to-back MVPs. Kakao, I think, is one of the players making a name for himself back here in Europe. And honestly, I think it's the kind of performance out of Kakao that could contest at the end of this split.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we've got a few really, really good junglers this split. Looking at Jankos throwing his name into the mix as well. Xerxes showing up, coming over from the TCL. Let's bring our attention to the top lane. We've not looked at it just yet, thank you, observers. It is, of course, top lane theme week. And there is a top lane stream going on EULCS 2 with Deficio Soaz and Odawamne. They're looking at this Renekton versus Nautilus match. And I think Alfari, now that he's got Dominus and Kakal's getting close to collateral damage. Not exactly the type of champion you want to dive in a Nautilus. But definitely someone you want to try to get some form of pressure, some form of control over, and you can see Kakao making his way there now.
Yeah, now's that moment of the game, but you have to know, he has to know that this type of play is coming, right? This is the exact moment in the game that Expect is slightly vulnerable to a play like this, but he's already got his ultimate, has his flash available, he is safe in that regard. It would take a lot out of Misfits to actually go for the play, but smartly, Expect drops back, doesn't stay in the lane, and plays this out a lot more defensive.
Well, no early mistakes then by either team. No advantages either. Even Stevens as far as CS is concerned and itemization. Looking at some of the back time this year. Oh, support in favor here of Misfits. Everybody wants to see the undefeated team lose. That is just something everybody wants to see, and Misfits garnering a lot of support in their inaugural split because of their play. It has been exciting, it has been entertaining, and they've got some fantastically talented players.
They have. Both teams looking really good recently, apart from that one blemish from Misfits. As you said, everybody is looking, waiting to see if G2 are going to lose. If you'll indulge me, G2 are almost like the John Cena of this. Everybody's just waiting for G2 to lose in domestic competition. It's not going to happen quite yet. We'll have to see at the end of this series whether the Misfits upset that, but certainly it's no surprise the fan vote has gone that way. G2,
the villains.
The bad boys of the EULCS.
Yeah, the self-proclaimed villains. But they did reclaim some European pride at Intel Extreme Masters, making it all the way to the final. It was a very trying day, and Stress, Trick is going to try to reclaim a blue buff. I say reclaim, he wants to steal it. I wonder if the chair got it. He got it with a chair. Seriously?
Hey, that's a disqualification normally. Referee must not have been looking. But G2, they pick up a blue buff, trying to secure as much vision control around this Infernal Drake. They don't want any presence onto that first dragon for the Misfits. Misfits have been pretty good with securing it, but you can see how this Thresh pick has been neutralized. Caitlyn Braum in the bot lane is a very difficult lane to crack, and Ignar's never found the opportunity, so picking a Thresh this early and saying, well, we're going to hook you in lane, doesn't work out.
Well, on the flip side, that hook can pay dividends later as well. Luckily, Ignar is a guy who has roamed, who's had some pretty good jungle support synergy, worked very well with Kakao over the course of the split. And if you look at the vision in the jungle, I think part of the reason that Misfits have been successful is how well they can play the map. It's just G2 wards everywhere. Yep. 1, 2, 3. I count 5 control wards on the minimap. And that bottom quadrant of the jungle completely lit up.
And not one of them is on the G2 half of the map, is the other side of that. That's the thing about G2's vision control right now. It's all in Misfits territory. It's not defensive.
Yeah, and I think you have to give some praise to the Observer team for highlighting that really well, just to show how much information G2 have to work with. We'll track how long that control ward behind Misfits red buff lasts. And remember, Perks and Trick moved into the enemy jungle to help steal that blue. It was actually Mithy that got it with the Winter's Bite. And now they're even able to give Perks the blue buff as well. So Misfits denied one of those camps. There's a lot of movement towards this top half, and Expect and Alfari, they're trading. But it doesn't look like Misfits are going to move their way up to try and put pressure on Expect's Nautilus.
And this is Misfits knowing the only place on the map they can make a play is topside. They want to try and find Trick here.
Shockwave is available, pulls Trick backwards, the bowler strike. Oh, look at the collateral damage! Kakao with first blood.
The only place they could make a play was in the topside jungle of G2. Perks was trying to shove the mid lane back out. Expect had been pushed at least a little under his tower, and Alfari was keeping him in lane. Trick was on his own for once. Trick is the one that gets found out in the jungle and ends up on the losing end of that exchange. Misfits with a nice first blood.
Despite us praising the vision the entire time, Misfits managed to make their limited vision pay off more. Saw Ignar, they're throwing out that death sentence, but he didn't manage to find a target with it, and
And
there you go. That's the vision.
that's what Trick saw. Did not have a secure path around. Oriana would come out, and it's just nice from Kakao, making sure that ball was delivered into the right place. A lot of people will look at that and be like, oh, Kakao, what was that all about? But making sure that that crowd control hits, and Trick has no way of escaping.
Yeah, and the hawk shot just flew over Trick's head there, so Hans Summer spotting him out. Not even a summoner spell used. Power of Evil and Kakao combo down Trick. They get the kill, the first blood, they get his flash as well, and it's on Kakao's graves, which is so important for Misfits as you get to this mid game.
However, here's the experience of the G2 lineup of playing together. Trick is not phased by the fact he just gave up first blood. The bot lane, Sven and Mithy had shoved Hans Sama and Ignar in and forced a recall timing, and that immediately utilizes all of that vision control on the bottom side to take that first Infernal Drake of the game. So instantly a response from G2. That's their cool, calm, collected heads that we've come to know over this last split.
Yeah, definitely got the ability to play, to make the most of a bad situation, I think is a good way of saying that. Let's take a look at the mini-map, and you can see Mithy and Sven trying to clear out the wards. Studio is very quiet as the game is quite tense, and we can actually hear a huge amount of chatter from the G2 squad, constantly calling updates about where the players are. You can see here, Perks about to be collapsed on.
Yeah, you can just here expect talking about Renekton not being in lane, being out of lane, because he can't shove the lane out and maintain vision control. So it's just imperative that he gives the knowledge over as soon as that is apparent. And now G2, because they've managed to spot out a couple of members of Misfits, again, go right back to shoving that bot lane. Look at the damage that's already been done.
Yeah, compare it to G2's bottom lane tower, Stress. It's full health.
Yep.
I mean, one auto maybe on that tower. Hans Sama with this Ash Thresh, somewhat countered by the Braum Caitlyn, and not a hard counter, but playstyle-wise, it's much more difficult to set up those kills scenarios.
In lane especially. As we go out of the laning phase, Hans Sama will have a lot of impact, where Sven will be at a weaker point. Of course, that Ash Arrow is always a potent tool as the game continues, and we can see Hans Sama looks like he's going towards that Essence Reaver, get some of that cooldown, get those arrows more frequent, and start getting into fights, because it's Power of Evil, his Oriana, we've seen it throughout the years, that's going to do a lot of damage in the late game.
Yeah, as long as you don't pull the Sombrero Shockwave. Power of Evil gets interrupted on the back. Power of Evil also running that exhaust, again, to survive some of the burst that'll come down from Rengar and Syndra, especially when they decide to combo anyone down. And I think double exhausts into Syndra is actually very, very impactful. And we'll see whether or not Power of Evil can make it work. There is some support coming down. Perks flashes all the way forward. Almost
still
gets
coming.
the kill, and expect he can tower dive. Barmy, Cinder, and Ninja Tabai available to him. But no further follow-up. And Perks, that was a bit aggressive.
Yeah, he was looking for the play, thought that they could get Power of Evil with the catch. Now the arrow comes out.
Oh, swing and a miss between the uprights. Not going to find Expect. I wonder if that was targeted for Trick, maybe? Didn't quite see the angle exactly.
At this point, though, Misfits trying to just keep their mid tower alive. There's been pushing lanes for G2 in mid and bot, and that mid tower is under threat as well. That's why they brought Ashe over to that mid lane alongside Oriana, now that they can go towards the top side and try and save that. But that big cooldown is now not available. Misfits have got to be very careful treading through this territory, because Trick is around, has his ultimate.
Oh, great damage from Sven. Combos everything. Ace in the Hole is available as well, but somebody can body block that one. Trick just leaps onto the minion wave.
And you see in this moment, Ignar throws out the death sentence, doesn't catch anyone with it. Suddenly there's no threat from Misfits. They know the Ash Arrow is not available, there's no hook anymore, and G2 move forward. The players that Misfits are playing up against right now are not the level of a Challenger Series regular team. This is G2. They're not going to get hit by most hooks. Sven's likely to flash any that come his way, and although that is a win for Misfits, it doesn't get you big bonuses right up front. You have to then get Sven again when his flash is still down.
And look how confidently Trick was playing. He just jumps onto Hans Sama and Ignar. The pressure from G2, the vision that they've secured, the lack of counterplay. I mean, G2 just take another tower. Yes, they gave up first blood. Trick was caught out, surprised. But it doesn't matter, because Dragon and 2 towers, G2 are in a great position.
And here's where I'm sure the top lane stream will be talking about how this Nautilus pick is actually fine into the Renekton Power of Evil. Gotta be careful.
Good positioning from Ignar. Gonna use that Dark Passage to save Power of Evil's life.
And the reason it's fine is because we've come out of a laning phase and Expect is only 12 CS down. This is a fine spot to be in because Renekton's value in these fights is going down and down and down because if Sven's under no threat, he can net flash out of a fight, whereas Expect walks into the backline, autos everybody and roots them in place, and suddenly all of the crowd control comes out. Sven, Perks, and Trick clean up the fight, and that's done in favor of G2.
Especially with the vision available to Expect. He's going to have all the opportunity to get in behind Misfits. Misfits are trying to do the same thing, though, and if you catch a glimpse of the minimap, a lot of deep vision around the Dragon Pit. 59 seconds until Infernal is back up and available. Essence Reaver completed for Hans Sama. Hurricane, BF, and Pickaxe for Sven. So he's going to have a little bit more damage to just put down. Well, Hans Sama just wants to get a good arrow. Let's see if they can catch out Sven, because this could be problematic.
They've separated Mithy from Sven, though, for now. Cacao, there's the hook from Ignar, but they don't want it yet.
All right, Perks gets caught by a Shockwave. Fight on two fronts. Cacao also uses the collateral damage. So Shockwave and collateral damage on cooldown for a potential dragon fight.
Now the arrow is still available. If Perks sticks around in mid lane, he's no flash but does have cleanse. So unless the follow-up is immediate from Misfits, they wouldn't be able to capitalize on that. But it's the dragon that you were talking about.
Yeah.
That's instantly where Misfits look to turn. But look at what G2 do in response. Ward goes in the mid lane. Sven's going to move up, and they're going to threaten the play. The problem is this is a little risky out of G2 when you look at how Misfits can cut in behind them, but Misfits not taking that route. They don't have full vision for themselves.
All right, trading an Infernal for what could be two towers. Is it worth if it's just one? Do they absolutely need to get two Stress? What do you think of this play so far? As G2 on the inner, mid, and the inner top lane.
I don't think G2 are going to get that mid tower in time. They're going to have to back away. Misfits are actually equalizing any tower trade down in the bottom side. So G2, they couldn't commit to the play on mid tower because they didn't have a safe route out of the exchange there. Now they move up to the top side. They know they're ahead of the Misfits here, so they will get one tower in exchange for the tower, but ultimately Dragon goes to Misfits on top of that.
Okay, so Infernal to Misfits over and above. They also get the outer bottom. This is the first tower that Misfits has knocked over this game. And it is a side lane Orianna. That's what we expect from Power of Evil.
Well, we've seen everything from Power of Evil in the old days of Smite Orianna, Teleport Orianna, everything. You name it, he'll take it on him. We did see heal Orianna from Featherman in the last series, trying to get a little bit of that ghost power that has been taken away from other summoners, but it's the exhaust. It's the boring one. I guess Barrier would be the boring one.
I think Barrier would be the boring one, because I think there is some outplay potential with exhaust, so I'll take that one. But Stress, we're getting to 20 minutes into the game, and Misfits, their opportunity to make plays is slowly being diminished, right? Renekton, even with Nautilus at 20 minutes, I start to get nervous. Even with Nautilus at 30 minutes, I start to prefer Nautilus, right?
Oh, absolutely. Even at this point, I'm still preferring Nautilus. Like, Alphari has been neutralized in not only champion, but play style in this setup here. Yes, he has been playing tanks as well, but Alphari historically has been a very aggressive player, one that'll look for a kill with Cacao early on, and then look to snowball on a carry like a Renekton and close out a game almost single-handedly. Now, Misfits haven't been able to play that style for a little while. That was what we saw predominantly in Challenger, but Alphari at 0-0-0 playing a farm game on Renekton is not where he himself will be having a fun time.
Especially when you look at Expect, right? This is a guy who, really, we've actually not spoken a huge amount of this split.
Right.
He's grown leaps and bounds. He's now a reliable member of G2.
And so many people for the last year have been saying, Expect's the weak link. He's the one. He's the one that is the weak link on G2. I don't think you can say that anymore. Like, Expect has really settled himself. And G2, the other members, while they haven't looked bad at really any stage, they have had off games.
Yeah.
More so than I remember from Expect in recent times.
And what matters, though, is that when somebody has an off game, somebody else picks it up.
Right.
Quite famously, a few weeks ago, we actually interviewed Sven and Mithy on the couch, and they talked about how the two of them have had bad games, and they were getting caught out. But Expect and Trick and Perk stepped up and carried. Well, let's see who's going to carry this time around. Thus far, it's really been about team decision-making. G2's vision control as a team. Tower pushing as a team. Dragon Secure did it as a team, you know?
Well, here's where Misfits as a team have typically done well, and it's the warding around Baron that has worked so well for them in the improved weeks 3 through 6. They've been able to control a lot of the vision around Baron. However, Misfits are behind, so it does become easier for G2 to secure it, clear out any wards. The mid tower is already down, so G2 can easily move up here, but Rift Scuttle is there. There is a ward in the back of the pit, but it has been denied by that control ward for now. I want to watch that continue through, though. Misfits, can they maintain any sense of jungle and vision control against this G2 lineup? And
also, to just talk a little bit about what this game means, right? G2 pretty safe in first place in the group right now.
Yep.
As we started the intra-group play, they've got a 2-series lead over Misfits. And with Fnatic losing yesterday, Misfits are looking safer in second place, right? So for Misfits, this now becomes about trying to cause an upset. If they can take G2 down and win out the rest and hope G2 also falter, there's a possibility to clinch first, but realistically, this is preparing for quarterfinals.
I mean, the cushion for G2, as they just blast cone their way into the Baron pit, the cushion for G2 means they could lose every series and still make playoffs, but they're going to sneak the Baron. The Rift Scuttler does not spot them, so Misfits are not yet aware. It is half health, though. Ignar's going to go check it. Could Lantern over?
There we go.
The TP comes in.
Instant teleport from Alfari after 22 minutes. Perkz gets caught out, uses the cleanse, throws down the sphere. Hudsummer's in trouble. G2, they pick up Baron, but the fight ensues. Shockwave only catches Expect. That's the target G2 wanted. Alfari, the power is unleashed, but he doesn't go down. The Crocodile runs away. It's a double kill for G2. They get the Baron, they get the kills, and they get out alive.
G2 coming out way ahead from that exchange, and a lot of it is because the Misfits had misfocus between the team. They were aiming for two very different things. Alfari was looking inside the pit to TP in and try and get as much as he could done. However, Ignar and the rest of Misfits were fighting Perkz around the side. Perkz is doing a good job of distracting, deterring Misfits from being able to get into the pit. And I want to take another look because I think it's Ignar ends up trying to hook Perkz. Trick has already jumped into the pit. The arrow goes wide, and instead of maybe setting up what could have been a wombo combo on the back end of the Baron take, G2 end up surviving all the way through because Misfits don't have enough damage to continue this exchange, and they get away with everybody alive, plus that Baron buff.
So for the first time since 10 minutes in the game, somebody dies. It's G2 picking up a Baron kill and 2 Misfits kills. But what fantastic play from G2. They pushed the waves in, they had all the vision to work with, they hop over even with the blast cone. Really well played. Arrow did connect on Perkz, remember there's no shockwave. That's a good shockwave from Power of Evil. Alfari does go down in the mix as Sven puts a lot of DPS down, but 2-for-1 trade, and they stop and slow down the Baron push.
Good response out of Misfits. That's exactly what they needed, was to use Hansama, get that arrow, connect onto one of the carries that was out on the side lane, and punish them. Because Trick was mid, Expect was top with no teleport available, and Misfits will capitalize. They'll get a Cloud Drake from this as well. So trying to stabilize when G2 have that Baron still for 1 minute and 30.
Piltover Peacemaker. Sven, how good is his steal?
Oh,
not
close.
today. Goes down. Didn't actually see if there was a smite available to Kakao. 74 HP on the Dragon before it goes down. So 25 minutes in, G2 with a small blunder in the bottom lane. That'll slow down the game, but they're still in the advantage, and this is just a great arrow onto Perkz.
Yeah, it's also good from Misfits to take this play as well. Sven on the end of this does manage to take down Alfari with only a couple of shots that came out.
That felt like 4 auto attacks. But I mean, look at Alfari. Black Cleaver, Ravenous Hydra, Titanic rather. That is not a tanky Crocodile, and he's not very far ahead his lane opponent, who has hundreds and hundreds of points of armor.
Yeah, in effect right now, it's 259 points of armor for Expect to be able to survive through a lot of the damage Hansama's going to output. Hansama on 2-item point himself, but he's more about the arrow right now. Power of Evil is going to be the one dealing the damage, but you look at it on the other side, Merc Treads, Abyssal Scepter after Morellonomicon. That's not the highest amount of damage coming out yet. Power of Evil needs more time, and that means they're going to hemorrhage towers.
Yeah, Misfits are in so much trouble. This Thresh pick has not done anything. The Renekton didn't bully its lane enough. Misfits are 8,000 gold down, and they were pulled mid to defend against Expect. And the rest of G2 just look to take down this bottom tower. And he's just really running circles around Misfits. Next target, inhibitor turrets.
It looks fairly similar to that H2K series, at least when you look at the pacing on the leading team. This case is G2, where Misfits don't seem able to keep up at all times with the top contenders here in Europe, but certainly a lot of growth in recent weeks from Misfits. I'm liking what the team are bringing to the table, but I think, as you said, this Thresh hasn't done enough. I want to see Ignar, that Malzahar, that flash ult in all the time was what was working so well for them.
Yeah, that's why it was the first ban from G2.
Yes, it was.
Very first champion taken away. And the thing is, though, like, I kind of look at all of Misfits and go, this isn't the Misfits I've come to know, right? They seem very, very passive, very reactive in their play. And they have been a good proactive team. They have been a good team at setting up at various stages. They just didn't do it this game. And I think that's something that they've got to go back to the drawing board and figure out, right, in game 2, was it the Renekton Thresh? If not, where do we find or force opportunities? Because there were none presented this game.
Yeah, there really were no opportunities to capitalize on for Misfits. They have to create their own. And again, against this lineup for G2, you're maybe going to catch Perks once or twice, Sven once or twice if you're lucky with those arrows and connect with a Hail Mary one. But Misfits have to try and work for these plays, but it's impossible when all the summoners are available for G2. They can just flash out the arrow. Low ping environment makes it easy enough for these players to just go, okay, well, I'm just going to deny that engage.
And then Misfits go back to square one.
Yep.
Look to rinse and repeat. Let's look at their wave clear. I mean, Graves, Ashe, Orianna, pretty good, especially without Baron empowered minions anymore. And G2, they're playing this one fairly safe. If you look at the vision, no deep vision just yet, but a bunch of control wards in the inventory. 3, 6, over 10 actually, a few seconds ago. So that's going to allow G2 at least again to push forward, maybe set up for another Baron style play. You talked about how good Misfits Baron control was. G2, also one of the strongest teams at securing Baron. It helps when you're undefeated team in the league.
Helps when you average massive gold leads against people as well. Oh.
Bowler Strike and Death Sentence, they go wide. But stress, some shenanigans being set up. Oh, happy St. Paddy's Day to all who celebrate. Everywhere in the world. I just said shenanigans that reminded me, right?
It's a bit early in the day for us to... I don't think that would have quite gone down well. If
past 12 o'clock, it's fine. Ignar continues to back away. Not going to be able to find anybody. And I mean, what do Misfits have to do, right? They've got this team comp. Is it really just a Hail Mary?
Throw an arrow at
Ashe
Sven, but the problem is there's so many wards around this area, and Misfits don't see exactly where he is, that it's impossible to do so.
Yeah, you can see Hussein on screen at the moment.
Oh,
there we go.
They got a lot from that.
QSS and the flash from Sven. Trying to get away. All right, now, rinse and repeat. Cooldown for Hans Sommer's arrow. Gonna double check. It's a little under a minute.
Yep. It's about 45 seconds remaining. At this point, Hans Sammer's basically got a 60-second cooldown on that arrow, so it basically is just like a clock. So just count it down, and it's very simple at this point. So Hans Sammer going to throw that arrow out next time he sees Sven step away, but Sven's not going to do that too often. Remember, he's still got about 3 minutes at least on that cooldown.
Yeah, looking at the minimap, Trick in the top lane, Expect in the bottom lane, trying to shove those waves to the inhibitor turrets. We're coming up to 30 minutes, and Perks will get gifted the Sentinel with the help of Sven. And Baron is the objective. Misfits, they're going to start this one off.
Here comes the TP. They've already got what they were looking for. Now they can look to turn on Expect, perhaps.
Expect does not cancel. They've blown up Hans Sommer. He survives with the Command Protect. Redemption comes down, buying some time. GT looking for more. Trick has the ability to jump in. That's 1 and 2. Trick's looking for another as Perks goes down. It's a triple kill for Sven. Ace in the hole for the Quadra.
It was looking better for Misfits off that shockwave, but G2 had bought enough time. They were far enough ahead, and G2, now they're going to push in. They may just win off this 30 seconds on everybody, and G2 looking dominant once again.
Huge death timers on the Misfits squad. Young Buck elated backstage with Sharks, the support team. And the rest of G2, one inhibitor down, turn their attention to the Nexus turret, taking this down maybe a little slower than they're anticipating. 5 seconds for Hans Samra and Ignar. I don't know if they can stop this one, but it might just get close. 5 seconds of Power of Evil. The Nexus is the focus. Ash Arrow comes down, but it's not going to be enough. G2 Esports take down Misfits 1-0.
And a mostly clean game at the same time. It's a win, it's a fairly clean win. G2, this is why they're on top of Group A.
It helps when Misfits pick 2 champions. No. When Misfits do not necessarily use their champions to their utmost. Renekton didn't have the greatest laning phase. Thresh didn't have the greatest laning phase. And I just didn't see plays from Misfits. I wanted to see more from them.
This was not the Thresh we were looking for. You gotta pick Thresh into a champion that you can actually catch. Like, okay, Caitlyn you can catch if Caitlyn misplays, but then you're never gonna just get her in the lane. That's not gonna happen. She stands behind the minions and just pushes the wave out.
Yeah, unfortunate for Misfits. So G2 Esports take a very clean, very confident game. I love the Baron call. 22 minutes in, they had phenomenal vision control. We kept toggling the wards and the sights and zooming out. G2 had so much information to play with, and they used it just exquisitely.
I like the Misfits were still trying to connect with those arrows, but that just was not enough. G2 take the win.
Yeah, it wasn't enough. The arrows too late in the game. So G2 is taking the lead in this best of 3 over Misfits. Let's send it to the analyst desk to break it down.
Thank you very much, guys, respectively, on each stream, as we were still here with Visit Chachi and Crepo to break down that game. And we want to start by picks and bans from a top laner perspective. What do you think the goal was here from both teams, and who outdrafted who?
I think panning out the Rumble and early picking the Nautilus was a really good choice by G2, because they forced Misfits to go double AD. So like the Renekton and the Graves are like double AD, can't really pressure the top lane, which is kind of their style, you know. That
Why can't they pressure the top lane if I'm like a new top laner?
Yeah, because the double AD enables the Nautilus to go full armor. So when he has Ninja Tabi, Sunfire, or like components of Sunfire already, he's probably not going to be pressured by the Renekton, cannot get pushed in, and therefore even if Power of Evil tries to roam, he cannot really execute anything.
Can you still dive that Nautilus like level 4, you think? Is that like the only window, or is it just not possible if he plays well?
I think there is a window if the Renekton can chunk him out, but that's hard because...
if the Nautilus is Visit Chachi, it's not going to happen?
Well, to me it always happens that I get low, but other than that, if he stays a bit more healthy, can recall with his shield and TP back, I don't think he should have any problems after.
Yeah, during the game you were talking about, or even just now, Power of Evil roaming. Is that something you see Misfits do very often, like the 3-man roam top?
Yes, I think this is a traditional Misfit style, that Power of Evil pushes the lane and they try to help out Alphari, abandoning their bot lane a bit and giving up some mid pressure and trying to snowball the top side, but that's something I personally don't agree with, because I think the current meta is kind of like bot lane centric. So I don't really like this play, because let's say the Nautilus gets the wave, they kill him, and enemy team meanwhile pressures them bot lane and they lose a turret or something. It's still not worth it, because the enemy team is just ahead.
Yeah, definitely agree with Chachi here. It's something Misfits do very often.
Yeah, and also I just wanted to say the first blood, it shows that as well,
It's
because that is where they get there.
Yeah, it's the control in the river that doesn't flow over to top lane here. But again, because this guy has like Ninja Tabis really early on, it's hard. What we do want to praise here is just how decisive they play this gank on. So like they clear the vision first, and then they're going to invade Chicken a little bit. And I just want to like, that Orianna ulti, how quick it comes out, I think was actually fantastic to see. Because they find Trick on his camp, and Trick has kind of no clue, and they don't know where he is exactly. So they split up here, the Misfits, and just see how quick like this play comes to be. Like they find Trick, ball on Kakao, instant punish, Trick flashes way too late. I think this was a really good invade.
That was a great play indeed, but I think Trick just disrespected a bit the Orianna pressure, because Orianna was still missing from mid lane, and that's where you kind of need to play a bit more passive or careful. So he could like pull the wolves towards the lane or something, and then he's more safe.
So even with that first blood, we see that G2 never really gives up any control. They even gain control. Vizcachi, why is it that G2 is so good at keeping a good eye on the map and keeping in control even when they are 1 kill down, which is, in their eyes, nothing?
I guess it's probably due to their superior vision control. As we could see, they always had deep vision in the enemy jungle. Like at one point they had five control wards.
Yeah. It was stupid.
It was actually insane. I think G2's vision control is top notch in EU, and that's something everyone can like learn from.
I think another good tidbit is in the mid game when so many teams like they're so used to putting their AD carry mid and then having the forcing like their mid laner to pick up side lanes like a Syndra. Like very often for G2 it's actually Sven playing on side lanes and they do it so well. Like Sven only goes there when his mid lane is safe and then he knows they're not getting outnumbered. Then he pulls back groups with mid and then puts side lane pressure so that like they rotate the 4-1s in different lanes. But like this guy is so good at fast pushing side lanes without getting caught, and sometimes it looks easy for us, but I think you as a pro player can also test how hard it is to manage your side waves.
Yeah, and also when they do this, they actually expose the enemy team to push mid lane first. But even by not showing on the map, Trick puts a lot of pressure on the map. Like he was farming golems in this instance, for example, and enemy team still needs to respect his presence because if he's around mid, they cannot push.
Yeah, we were attacking a gold and we were like, okay, they need deep vision right now in red side to set up Baron, and then we looked at what they were actually doing, and it's like Trick was farming every single camp on the map, and then eventually after getting a large gold lead, they went for this cheeky play. Fizjachi, talk to me as an experienced 50-50er with the best jungle stealing Xerxes on your team. Good play, bad play, what's going on here?
Right now, I thought it's a good play because it's unspotted, but right now the Ashe comes and I think they should instantly leave the Nashor because they are half HP or less, and if Renekton TPs in, Misfits should take this fight and win it. However, they go for steal the Nashor, Kakao jumps in, gets insta-popped.
Perks has insane movement.
Yeah, G2 played this pretty much perfect after, but I still felt like it was a risky call and it wouldn't work against maybe some other top teams.
Would it work versus the Unicorns of Love is the question.
No.
No, clearly not. So after game one, G2 absolutely dominating Misfits. They were practically invisible. So what do we see happening here going into game two? What should the Misfits do?
I think they should get more aggressive topside, like carry pick for Alphari, try to deny expect from comfort champions, because I think that's the Misfit style that they need to like push a bit harder because they practiced this the whole split, I felt like. So it's definitely a route they should take and try to take out expect of the game.
Do you think that's possible in 7.5 when you no longer have kind of the forced Camille, like the Camille Rengar LeBlanc bans, you know, and you can actually just target a single player? Can they not simply not just outban Alphari, or are there enough carry picks out there? Like, can you still play Fiora, for example?
I think he most likely looks for picks like Rumble Cannon. So if one of them gets open, he should pick it up and try to pressure. Also, taking away Nautilus could be an option, and he can still go Renekton, I think. Renekton is a good pressure jungler, or pressure top laner. And if they can get an Elise or something, like AP pressure jungler, then they could snowball the Renekton as well.
Realistically, do we see the Misfits coming back? Who's judging?
I think G2 will take game 2 anyways.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. We're going to take a break as the players get ready for game 2 between Misfits and G2. But before we go, make sure you head over to eu.llesports.com where you can see how, for Misfits' Hans Sama, art imitates league and league imitates life.
That's beautiful.
When you draw so good, you're so satisfied, you just want to draw another drawing. That's what I do. And there's a point where you fail, you play so bad, you draw so bad, but keep going, just keep going. My name is Steven Leaf. I am the artist known as Hans Sama.